here's how I almost became right-wing as a black person. So as a Ghanaian born and raised person, following down the all-right pipeline was not on my to-do list, but let me tell you how it was done. So the first thing is number one, alienation from mainstream black culture or politics. That was the first step into it. So many black people who fall into the all-right pipeline start by feeling disconnected from the mainstream black culture or politics. Maybe they grew up in an environment where they were called whitewashed for speaking properly or not conforming to certain stereotypes. Maybe they never truly felt accepted in predominantly black spaces, or even plain reduced to a stereotype in white spaces, which was the case for myself. The alienation can lead to resentment, making you susceptible to ideologies that validate your feelings of being an outsider. The all-right pipeline exploits you by offering an alternative identity, one where you're not black first, but rather an individual who thinks for themselves. This framing can be very seductive because it presents itself as empowering, but when in reality, it's just a tactic to isolate you from your own community. So the truth is, right, a lot of black people in these all-right spaces are not really seen as equals in these spaces. They just used to push a narrative, a kind of sort of like I've got a black friend sort of narrative. So number two was reaction to identity politics and victim narratives. A huge entry point to all-right pipeline is rejecting what you see as victim mentality in black political discourse. If you're tired of hearing about oppression, systemic racism, or reparations, it's easy to be drawn into spaces that claim success is purely individual and racism is overblown. So these communities don't actually want black people to succeed. They just want to weaponize your voice against other black people. Number three was gradual desensitization to racism and white nationalism. The all-right pipeline doesn't just start with swastikas or racial slurs, calling people the N-word. That's not how it starts at all, okay? It begins with facts over feelings, those type of people, facts over feelings type of people, or IQ statistics or critiques of black culture. That's how it starts. You might hear things like, what about black on black crime? Maybe single motherhood is the real problem. That's to my Andrew Taylor right there, they're going to end up being single mothers. That's all pushing you to the all-right pipeline, okay? So at first, these seem like neutral observations. They might seem smart to someone whose brain is underdeveloped. But as you go deeper, the rhetoric escalates into outright white nationalism. You might start consuming content that suggests black people are biologically less intelligent, that segregation wasn't so bad as we're seeing that conversation right now, or that white people are the real victims of racism today. That's the funniest one. At some point, you'll be so deep in the ideology that you start justifying things you would never have before, okay? You might think you're just being logical, but in reality, you're just internalizing white supremacist talking points. If a movement regularly attracts open white nationalists, if its leaders have ties to hate groups, and if its core message revolves around diminishing black struggles, then maybe it's not about free thinking after all. So the fourth one is materialism and the worship of success. This might be a bit more relatable to some people, but just hear me out, okay? So being raised as a Christian, there was a massive push on Christian materialism, which is the idea that wealth and power are signs of God's favor. If you believe that success is a reflection of morality, then it's easy to start viewing rich, powerful white conservatives as deserving of their position, while struggling black communities are seen as lazy or spiritually deficient. This mindset can lead to glorifying capitalism and rejecting social programs. Examples like, if God blesses hard work, why should the government help the lazy? Blaming black people for systemic struggles. If they just followed Christian values, marriage, discipline, faith, they wouldn't be in poverty. Aligning with white conservatives who claim to represent Christian values, whilst actually pushing policies that harm the black communities. Donald Trump, him, yeah. If you're going down this path, ask yourself, are you being embraced as an equal, or are you just a useful tool? The all-right pipeline thrives on self-hating minorities who will parrot its views for validation. But at the end of the day, no matter how much you conform, you'll never be fully accepted in spaces that are just built on white supremacy, because you know why.